Aaron, welcome to the Leanpub launch video for testing Rails from scratch, a practical, mostly out-of-the-box approach to test-driven development in Ruby on Rails. I was wondering if you could take a moment to talk to all of us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do and what your book is about and who it's for.
So my name is Aaron Sumner. I'm a longtime software developer. I've been working with Ruby on Rails, gosh, for good 20 years at this point. Still love it. Still love thinking about test-driven development and talking about it with people. Um, and this is my second book with Leanpub. The first one was around a different testing framework called RSpec that is not doesn't come included with Ruby on Rails. You have to install it separately. And for a long time, it was just the kind of accepted for a lot of people to do testing, just install RSpec and your life will be better in Rails. Um, Back when I had started working with Ruby, I wasn't very familiar with test-driven development really at all, to be honest. And so I took it upon myself to I read a lot, it just still wasn't clicking. And I finally just figured out a way to break it down into really small chunks where I'll just practice one thing. And once I'm, once I feel good about that, I'll expand to the next slightly more complicated thing and then the next slightly more complicated thing. And I started blogging about what I was doing, and people really resonated with people. So that was my first experience with Leanpub, where it's like, hey, this is resonating with people. Maybe I could make a buck off of it. And yeah, it was just as you advertised. It was really simple to get going with the new book and have that out the door, and it did really well. In that time, I didn't think I'd ever write another book, especially about testing. And earlier this year, I'd been, with vibe coding and things like that being a thing now, I was just kind of noodling with some ideas for different software projects. And I'm just kind of cranking out code, not worrying about tests and things like that. But then I had this code that I said, okay, I might want to keep this around. If I'm going to keep it around, I should have tests in it. And I thought, this might be a good opportunity for me to revisit that default stack. And so I did. I went back, I revisited it for the first time in several years, and it's actually quite nice now. So I got interested in a little bit of a thought experiment, whether the same approach I took to teaching myself RSpec and then teaching other people RSpec, would that apply with the default tools that Rails provides these days? And I found that it does. So I, one thing led to another, and I had all the code kind of written out the way I wanted to have it, and now I'm going back to fill in the prose. Right now, it's not a 100% port of the original book to the new tooling, but uh, they are influencing each other, I'm finding. So as I so I've got the first three chapters out now. That's what have launched, and I'll be working on the next several chapters over the course of the summer. Um, but what's interesting is it's helped me think about testing in general in different ways that 10 plus years later, I'm still making updates to the RSpec book whenever a new version of Rails comes out, and I make those available to anyone who purchased it ever. And so, once the dust settles on this new book, I want to go back and kind of revisit some of the things that I've been saying for years about this is how testing should work. Because now I think about it a little bit differently. So, um, like I said, it was just kind of an experiment, and it's been a very fun exercise. And yeah, really great to have new stuff out on Leanpub.
Yeah, no, we were so excited to see it. I mean, your first book is a kind of like one of the canonical kind of successful Leanpub books, right? I mean,
I,
it's kind of like it's about something that needs to be a book that needs to be updated, about something that's changing and can get better described and stuff like that. But kind of a if you just look at the title as an ordinary person, it's like what a niche topic.
Mhm.
But of course, it's a great bestseller. I mean, just you reached more readers and not to put too fine a point on it, made more money than most authors make from their books. And it's because it's such a good book, and partly it was just such a perfect fit, the project and the nature of it, and your
Mhm.
approach to it for our platform. So we're just the greatest fans of yours. And so we're excited to see this new book come out. So the one question I have is, we do short clips from these videos now. So let's see if we can get one of those.
All right.
Uh, to someone who says to you, "Why do I need to test? I can vibe code now." What's your answer?
I get that question at work and elsewhere. Um, I will say that the agentic tools are getting better at tests, but tests are your ultimate safety net against AI slop getting out and with a bug that just ruins a lot of people's day or something like that. And um, knowing knowing the right ways to test, knowing what to test, knowing the things that they're useful to test, but maybe aren't as important for other things because of we can test that, but it's not as convenient because the that results in a flaky test or something that's really dependent on doing a lot of things through a browser versus just super quick running lines of code in memory takes like microseconds. Um, and regardless of whether you're using RSpec or Minitest or a totally different language or framework, the concepts are largely the same around um, testing so that you get a good feel for yes, this is telling me that the code is doing the right thing. It's not just I told the AI to write a test and it said sure, and it
Right.
basically just proves that your code does what your code says it's doing. But if the code doesn't actually do what your bosses or somebody want it to do, then it's not good code. So knowing how to talk in the language of the testing framework and knowing those concepts around what to test, where to test it, why to test it, are invaluable, and I think will just continue to be an important thing that we as humans continue to contribute to our part of the software workflow.
That's very well said. My little joke, as I always like to say, is it goes against my nature to have short conversations, but that's the idea behind these videos. The book is Testing Rails from Scratch, a practical, mostly out of the box approach to test driven development in Ruby on Rails. Thank you so much, Aaron, for taking the time to talk to all of us today in this launch video. Good luck writing the rest of the chapters over the summer. And thank you very much for choosing Leanpub as the platform again for your book. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lynn. It's a pleasure. I love working with Leanpub.